Now people are saying this year it's hot. They're saying it's the hottest summer that it's been all over the world. But you know, Doria, this isn't hot. I remember, you know, growing up, spent summers on my grandfather's farm. That was hot. I mean, I remember one year my grandfather planted a whole field of popcorn, and we had one mule that loved to get away from wherever it was and disappear into one of the fields. And this day it was so hot that corn popped right off the ears, filled the field, making it turn white. The donkey wandered in. It was so stupid it froze to death, thinking it was a snowstorm. Now that's hot. My grandfather had a blacksmith that worked on the farm too, and usually he had a big oven, and he had bellows to keep that oven going so he could stick that hot iron in so it would melt. Oh, on days when it was so hot, instead of that oven, he'd just put 2 cubes of ice. He'd pick up that iron from the sun, stick it in the ice, and go shh, it'd burn and melt, and he'd be able to pound it into whatever he wanted. I mean, that's how hot it used to be. But it's pretty hot still around here, and I thought I'd start off telling a story about what some of the things I used to do when it was hot. Now, when I went to undergraduate school, I went in Albany, New York, Albany State University, and one of the things we'd love to do when it got this hot in the city, because it's a city just like Boston here, was we'd go tubing. And if you've never been tubing, is you get these big old tubes, the kind that truck drivers use, and you sit in them and you go down gentle streams and you hang out all day in the water and you swim, and it's just a lot of fun. And we'd always go to this one place which was down by Woodstock, near where they had the concert, and they'd rent you a tube and you'd go in, and it was a very small stream. I mean, if you went to the upper half, there was so many rocks that you could barely get around them. You'd have to sort of pick up your tube and walk around the rocks, because that's how shallow it was, that's how many rocks there were, and then you'd hit the middle part, and that was just fine. And I want to tell you about 2 times that I went tubing that really stuck out in my head. There was this one time when it had rained a lot, so the water was higher, so the rocks were more buried, and it was faster. And we're tubing down and in these tubes, and everything's fine. And there was one point between the upper part of the creek and the lower part of the creek where there was a fall. It was about 4 or 5 feet. It wasn't that big deal because there was enough water at the bottom that no one got hurt. But when it was dangerous, when it was deep and fast, people would line up there with ropes. This was the first time I ever saw it. People would line up on the side with ropes, and they'd watch people fly over this thing, flip over, lose their tube. They'd be throwing ropes in and dragging the people out, and it was a great way to watch people get saved. And so we went over this, had no problem. Then we hung out there to watch some other people get saved, and sure enough, some people right after us, this woman went over, she flipped over, she landed, her tube went down, and she was crying, you know, she was screaming for her boyfriend. Her boyfriend went over just fine, so we wanted to help her. So we jumped out of his tube, got into the water, went over, helped her back into his tube, and what happened was he stepped on some stones that were underneath the water, and his foot got trapped between those stones. And the water was moving pretty fast, so if you're stuck in the middle of the stream, you know, and it's flowing pretty fast, and you're trying to brace yourself because your leg's caught in this rock, it hurts an awful lot. And if he got stuck there long enough, his leg probably would have been pulled off. And so there's like 10 of us lined up. We throw our tubes up to the side, in which people are diving down trying to move these rocks, which was impossible. They were really close together, and we had this long chain of people. People had gone all the way to the house that was like a good half mile to the road, and got the police and the fire trucks, and someone was smart enough to bring back a crowbar from their, you know, tire iron from their car, and we would dive down and take turns diving down trying to move these rocks. So finally, about 20 minutes, we were able to move that rock and get this guy free, and his ankle was all bruised up. He probably had broken it, and we had to carry them out of the water all the way up the shore, all the way in this huge chain, about 30 people, all the way to the house so the paramedics could take them away. And that was just a wonderful time to see everybody working together. And of course there was someone there with a video camera videoing this, so I'm sure somewhere on like America's Home Video it's sort of, there's this, you know, video of me and a bunch of other people rescuing this person from being caught in this creek. And my other story, which is a much different time, because we would go there very often, and this happened about 6 weeks later, and we brought friends who had never been water tubing before and had never been here. And we got there early because it was a hot day. We figured, oh, you know, it's going to be busy, get there early. And we get in line, oh, they have lots of tubes, good. And we get up there and they're like, oh, would you like tubes today with seats in the bottom and helmets? And we're like, seats? Because some of them they sold like if you're a real, you know, newbie, like with a wooden seat in the bottom. And we're like, oh, we don't need any seats. We've done this plenty of times. You sure? Yeah, we don't need any seats and no helmets? No helmets. What do we need helmets for? They're like, well, you know, they opened up the dam today and so the water's twice as high and twice as fast. Well, we sort of thought for a second, well, maybe we should do something. But me and my girlfriend, we didn't get seats, but my friends did get the seats. No one got helmets. And we started up all the way on the top. And it was so deep. Now, most of those rocks were covered in water. It was so deep and fast that there was actually whitewater rafts going by us. That's how fast and deep this little creek was. Now it was a raging river. So we were like whitewater tubing down this thing. And it was fun because you're going really fast around rocks. There's no reason to stop. Of course, you get to that fall. And even though the fall's still only about 5 feet, you're going a hell of a lot faster now, so everybody was like flipping over and losing it, but we went over and boom, landed in that tube and didn't get lost at all. Made it down. Oh, this is no problem. Got about an hour and a half to go, 2 hours to go, and all of a sudden I'm in the middle, there's nowhere to go, and there's a rock in front of me. I'm trying to steer around this rock because it's sort of flat and shaped like this, sort of like a ramp you might use for your bike or skateboard, and I'm trying to go around it and there's no way to steer this thing. So I have no choice, it just goes whoosh, shooting up over this rock. I go flipping over, the tube takes off one direction, I slam down on this rock. So I hit my head, hit my back, get all cut up, and then I get washed down this river, raging river with nothing. And people are trying to get my tube and I'm sort of screaming for help because I'm just wandering along thinking I'm sure to drown and another rock's coming, like, oh, I'm going to grab onto this rock. This rock comes and I just grab as hard as I can onto it, but rocks are pretty slippery and the water is moving pretty quickly, and sure enough I went whoosh and shot off that rock and landed again in the middle of the creek, and it just kept going and going, and I'm like, for sure I'm going to drown because I can swim, but you know, you can't swim against a river going that fast. But luckily I was able to swim sideways, so even though I was moving forward, I was swimming sideways, and every time a rock pulled out I would crawl and pull myself all along until I reached the side. I reached this big old tree root and I hung on to it for dear life, and I thought, oh, I'm safe, I can go home now, I didn't drown, isn't that great? And my friends, they went and they got my tube, they got it, they said, come on, get back in and you'll be great. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not getting back in there. I'm going to walk back the rest of the way. I'll go home. And my friends are just looking at me, and my girlfriend's like, but it's like 3 miles to back to where we have to go, and that's like on the road, and the road's like a good half mile, and you can't get through it through the woods. So basically I was shit because there was nowhere for me to go but to get back in this tube and drown again. Well, it took me about 10 minutes to decide because I was pretty scared, probably the scariest I've ever been, but I had no choice, so I got back in this tube and I hung on for dear life. My hands were turning red, hanging on to the ropes that they attached to the tube. And luckily I made it down the rest of the way, and I even made it out. We were supposed to get out, and I grabbed the place and we got out, and I ended up being fine. But I can tell you after that, I never did go tubing again. And that's my story of what to do when it's hot in the summertime. Thank you.